Hey, what's going on? Got the hiccups. Pardon me, excuse me, bless me. This is Slim Geek Rockefeller coming at you for the first and intro episode of Fourth Wall Podcast, breaking the fourth wall of reality. A boom bop bam! Hey! Oh, goodness, Gloria, sweet Mother Mary and Joseph. I gotta work on these hiccups, man. Bear with me. The name Fourth Wall Podcast came to me in a K-hole. Well, it was post-K-hole. There wasn't much conscious thought in the K-hole, feel me? But I was thinking about, I was like, damn, ketamine kind of breaks the fourth wall of reality. Makes everything feel like the Truman Show. So, more on that later, or not. So, hi, if you don't know me, my name is Luke Nukem. I've been a pretty hardcore drug addict for 12 years of my life, for the most part. There was one period of some sobriety that we'll get into, and we're in another period right now. I'm on methadone maintenance, so, I am dependent on methadone and take that daily. My dose is at 30 milligrams right now, pretty low dose. I actually just started. I made the switch from Suboxone, buprenorphine and naloxone, that's, Suboxone, that MAT over to methadone MAT, right? Medication-assisted treatment and or medication-assisted therapy. I will be 2 months sober on Monday. It is currently a Saturday, so we're 2 days away from that, and I'm pumped up. I've had many periods of 30 days or less of sobriety. I think one other period of 60 days of sobriety. And then there was one time where I was sober for about 12 months, about 12 months. Then I was placed on modafinil, convinced the doctor I had narcolepsy, put me on 200 milligrams modafinil once daily. And I stayed on just the modafinil for, a total of 1 year and 10 months of, modafinil sobriety. Then I had relapsed one night, took some kratom extract, smoked some dabs, and took a bunch of Lunesta. I actually took the Lunesta, I started taking that maybe a month prior to the weed and kratom little slip up. But anyways, that was the thing, right? And then I returned to use at about what would have been the 2-year mark of sobriety. I went back to just the modafinil for the next two. Anyways, bro, I'm rambling. We'll get into this. We'll get into that another time, and we'll get into why I talk about that period as sobriety. I was very AA pilled, very 12-step pilled at the time, and working in a treatment center. And so I believed, and I said for so long that, I made it to 2 years sober, when I in fact did not. And so, it's crazy how you tell a lie or a fib, or even if you're not trying to lie or don't think you're lying, right? You do mental gymnastics and just speak about the truth otherwise. You begin to believe it after a while. So that's, man, we'll get into all that another time. This will probably be a blooper that I'll post to YouTube because I don't think anyone wants to listen to me hiccuping. What do you think, baby? I think I should have to redo this. She thinks it's sweet. I think that's because she loves me and likes me, and so that's why she thinks it's sweet. But I think the average listener will be like, bro, fuck out my face with those hiccups. So this podcast is going to be, I was heavily inspired by Dopey, the podcast on drug addiction and dumb shit. Drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. Shout out to Dave. What's Dave's last name?
Mannheim.
Dave Mannheim up in New York. Shout out to Dave. I would love him to come on the podcast at some point, and I would love to go on Dopey. So this podcast will take the format of Dopey for the most part. Not going to be a carbon copy by any means, or even a copy. I'm just paying homage, paying that where it's due. I'm going to be interviewing people. A lot of this will be the Zoom call style interviews. Some of it will be people in person, which will be dope, at the in-home podcast studio, which is just a spare room. And then a lot of it will be Zoom calls where it's a filmed Zoom call. That's pretty self-explanatory. Where I'm going to be interviewing junkies from all over, man. Junkies and cool, interesting people from all over that have been through all types of crazy, crazy shit. But on this first episode, it's just going to be me. My girlfriend's here with me. We're on the way to Juice Go right now. Teso. We're on the way to Teso Life.
Oh, I was going to Juice Go first.
Oh, shit. We're hitting both. Good goddamn. Yeah, I'm really fiending for the claw machine and some Japanese candies. So I love playing the claw machine. I'm a claw machine aficionado. But this episode, I'm going to tell my story to you guys. Have you ever been to AA or NA? Those 12-step meetings, or even Celebrate Recovery, they do it too. Where, someone has a speaker meeting and shares their story. I'm going to give you an autobiographical account, sort of be careful. Sorry, I'm a big front seat driver. Sort of like a memoir with the focus on drug addiction. I got wrapped up in an organized group of people that had ties to a Mexican cartel. Can I say the guy's name? I think I'm going to say his name. I don't want to say his full name. He's in prison right now, but Ochoa. You do enough digging, and you'll find stuff about Chapel Hill, and you'll see somewhere in the case last name of Ochoa at the top, running it and leading it. Anyways, more on that later. Statute of limitations for all the drug trafficking and gun stuff and everything I did, strawman purchases, all that. If any feds are listening or any ops, if any ops are listening, y'all know what's up. Any feds are listening, this is a creative writing endeavor, and I'm making all of this shit up. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, the statute of limitations will be up in December. And yeah, bro, it's September, so a couple months away. The indictment that really brought down most of the people in my circle happened in December. I think it was December. Pretty sure it was of 2020. Could have been November. Could have been October. Can't really remember, but I do remember that day. I'll never forget it. All the calls I got, all the people bugging out. I got to change the homie's name. What should I call Big Homie? I got to change all their names. More on that later. But I'll never forget D calling me, being like, "Hey, bro, you see the news? You got any calls today?" And I was just like, "Yeah, about fucking 30, 40 phone calls. How about you?" And he's like, "Yeah, same. People are freaking blowing up our lines, making sure we're okay." Only a couple of us got away from that. But anyways, man, I'm getting so ahead of myself. I'm talking like you guys know me, right? But you don't. Some of you may do. Some of you may. I make content on Instagram at slimgeek_Rockefeller. Rockefeller spelled like John D. D who? D's nuts! Got him. Slim Geek, one word, _Rockefeller. That's the YouTube channel too, at which you're probably watching this podcast right now. And as far as getting this on Spotify or just having the audio, we're going to get around to that soon. So I guess, man, I just need to jump into it and get into it from the beginning, right? So I was born March 18th, 1999 in Raleigh, North Carolina. I don't know what kind of Freudian slip or what I was. I was born in 1998, goddammit. Not 1999. I said March 18th, 1999 for some reason. I was born March 18th, 1998. My social is... Just kidding. To Chris and Jennifer Petty. Shout out Chris and Jennifer Petty. I'm back on speaking terms with Chris. Me and Jennifer are not, but will be again shortly, hopefully. Man, I really am going to have to do an outtake now, or whatever. I don't even know what the fuck that means, outtake. What am I? I'm acting like I'm a pro podcaster. But these hiccups cannot persist. It's been 10 minutes of hiccups. I forgot my invention. I use this special straw that is really helpful that Shorty over here got me. It's called the Hickaway. I'm not sponsored by them. This is not an ad, but damn, I forgot my invention, and now I'm just suffering. So, all right, nuke 'em out. Call me Slim Geek or call me Luke Nukem or Nukem, either one. Nukem out for now. I'll tune back in when we're done with our shopping, and I'll actually get into the story when I don't have these fucking hiccups. Bless up, shout out, and gang gang. All right, dude, let's get it cracking. So, I was Born Raleigh, North Carolina. Upper middle class family. Both my parents grew up extremely poor. I did not grow up extremely poor. Had some trauma as a child, all that good stuff. But yeah, bro, I'm not going to give y'all like the whole, this is not a therapy session, right? I'm going to get into the good stuff, okay? I got coerced into, when I was about four, got coerced into jacking off a 13-year-old. Please no one clip that. Like, keep the whole thing in context, right? So I got some like childhood trauma, whatever. Who doesn't, bro? You know what I'm saying? Who does not have childhood trauma? We all do. So when I was 15, bro, my dad had a heart attack and I was home alone, and I decided to smoke weed for the first time with the homie. We'll call him Frosty. Frosty came over. We smoked some weed. The next night, because my parents were in the hospital for like a couple nights and I was at home, my dad survived. The next night, I stole some liquor, some peach schnapps, and got drunk. And immediately, bro, I was just like, yo, I've been missing out, dude. This is what's up. This is what everybody's talking about. So that's what this is all about, right? Drank and smoked. After that, became obsessed with perusing people's medicine cabinets, most primarily my parents. Anything that I could Google the name of any pill bottle, right? And then type in recreational value after the fact to see if you could get high on it. And then that was my MO for a hot minute, dude. So my dad was prescribed Klonopin and Ambien. My mom was prescribed Sonata. So I started to have a field day, dude. This is back when Bitcoin was very cheap. This is like, what, 2012, 2013 era. Yeah, bro. Silk Road hadn't been shut down yet. Russ Albrecht, whatever his name is. Russ Albrecht. He was still popping. He hadn't been caught yet. So my older homie, I'll just say his name, I don't think he gives a fuck, Wiley, he was on Silk Road pretty heavily, and then the homie Frosty was on Silk Road, and we were getting LSD, DMT, MDMA, cocaine. So by the time I was 16, like, I tried shit for the first time when I was 15, right? The pill, like the sleeping pills, the benzos, some homies Vyvanse prescription at school, smoking dabs, drinking. By the time I was 16, I was a daily user of cannabis, and I had tried opiates like hydros and Percocet and things like that, cocaine, LSD, DMT, tried like a lot of everything, man. My third time ever tripping, I was gonna take 10 tabs. Then my homies talked me down to I had only taken one tab twice before. I was gonna take freaking 10 tabs, and my homies talked me down to like 6, or I negotiated like, no, I'm gonna do 6. Then they talked me down to 3. It was a horrible setting, and long story short, I had a drug-induced psychotic break, drug-induced psychosis. But it was a psychotic break from reality. It did not persist past the duration of the LSD high, but my brain snapped. I saw myself in third person, like out of body, looking down on myself. I knocked out the one homie, like punched him in the face as hard as I could, ripped a TV off the wall, started running around screaming, "Where are the knives? Where are the knives? Where are the knives?" And my friend's mother and sister were upstairs, and I was very convinced that I needed to stab everybody to death in the house in order to have us all, like, escape the simulation we were trapped in. My homie that was sober, it was his house, his main concern was not getting caught, right? So I'm running up the stairs, and he grabs me by the ankles, drags me down, straddles me, and uses the heel of his hand to just bash me in the temples over and over and over and over. Not a fun time. They would also, him and the other homie who had recovered from my initial punch, right? He was tripping. He was on 2 tabs, I think. Yeah, dude, they gagged me. The one dude, the sober dude, was straddling me and just bashing me in the head over and over and over. And every time I would sort of like, for those of you that have done LSD, you know, you can't go to sleep on acid. Well, the same works with being unconscious. You can get physically knocked unconscious, but your brain is still tripping. At least for me it was. I was still fully hallucinating. This trip was so intense, dude. I don't know if they were research chemicals or what, or if it was just my brain was predisposed to have a crazy experience. Because, side note, one of my homies, he always said that the dose of the acid did not really matter about the potency of the trip. And that's not always true. I mean, it is very dose dependent for sure. But, like, he's done 10 strips before, right? I never went above 6 tabs in my tripping career. Probably like 600 mics. But he's done 10 tabs, and his most intense trip to date was a 1 tab experience. And like we all know about set and setting, like your mindset and then the actual setting you're in has a huge bearing on whether it's a positive or negative trip. But I also think just whatever is going on in your mental state has a lot to do with the potency of the trip too. So this trip, man, a lot of it I was totally out of body. Totally freaking out of body, dude. It was absolutely gnarly. I was convinced that I was in hell. My 2 friends are like, I'm seeing them straddled over me. I'm on the ground, right? Just getting beat in the head and gagged, because I'm going, whenever I would like come to. But yeah, dude, I was convinced, like, so what they're really saying in real life is like, yo, Luke, wake up, like, or like calm down, or like chill out. Dude, my camera's reversed, so like I try to fix my hair and it looks silly, dude. I approached from the opposite direction because this looks like that way. I'm getting bald, dude. I got to embrace the male pattern baldness of the widow's peak. Okay, anyways, enough vanity bullshit. Yeah, bro. Like, what they really were saying was like, Luke, calm down, please, like, wake up, or like, chill out. And what I'm hearing them say is, Luke, you killed yourself. How are we going to tell your parents, dude? You ruined our lives. You ruined our futures. Oh my God. And they were their normal selves, and then they would transform into these demons, dude. They would transform into looking like freaking demons. And then they would transform into the best version of themselves. They were taller, their skin would clear up, they were glowing, they were wearing like professional garb. One of the homies who's now a chemist, he was wearing like a lab coat and stuff, and they were like, oh, dude, this is crazy. I had to do EMDR, like trauma therapy, to people to talk about this shit without having flashbacks to it and like full like, oh God, is it happening again? Like the worst feelings there that I was gonna like lose my mind again for years. The one homie still can't really talk about it. He's traumatized from it, but that's okay. We all process things differently. But they would transform into like their best version of themselves, like angelic beings, and back and forth into demons, rapid cycling. And at one point they looked at me and they're like, hey man, you did kill yourself. And like my head's on a tile, like a linoleum floor, and I'm just hallucinated the pool of blood wrapping around and pooling around my head. It was absolutely horrendous. And I heard sirens, like maybe there was real ambulances going by in the neighborhood, but I hallucinated hearing sirens and stuff, and was like, holy shit, I killed myself. But I'm trapped in my body right now. And like, yeah, the police are coming, like my parents are going to be devastated. These guys are going to be devastated and traumatized forever. It's going to impact their futures. And like, dude, I'll never forget them looking at me and being like, hey, Luke, since you killed yourself, you're now in hell. This is forever. You're going to be stuck like this forever. And so I'm just laying there like the revelation dawned on me like, yo, I'm trapped here forever. Holy shit. I did the thing, bro. I ended my shit, and now I'm stuck here. And they were like, the good news is we're your guides in hell. We're going to try to look out for you and make this as least horrible of an experience as possible. Then the night progressed of me gurgling on the ground, like resisting, freaking out, trying to get like free from my friend straddling me and hit me in the head and shit. Then eventually I went total out of body, total ego death, total just full receded into the recesses of my mind, and they dragged me up onto my friend's bed, and I laid there unconscious for, just tripping balls for several hours, just going, and and like grabbing my ball sack and like squeezing it and like twitching and making these noises. And every guttural noise I made and every motion I twitch and like grab and like shit that I did to myself would heavily impact the visuals I was seeing. And then the trip transformed into me thinking I had to like almost like Dance Dance Revolution or Guitar Hero, where you have to, like on expert mode, you have to do a rapid sequence of things, right, to get it correct. I thought I had to do the proper sequence of guttural noises and like twitching effects to unlock the secret of the universe. And I finally did. I got it, and the ceiling opened up, light poured in, and it was the most beautiful, most amazing feeling I have ever felt in my life. It doesn't even parallel to like crack or heroin or anything. Like, this was the most pleasure I'd ever felt. And imparted unto me was the secret of existence, the universe, life, the meaning of life, and everything. I couldn't tell you what that was, because as soon as I had it, it was gone and I lost it. But dude, I'll never forget just that psychedelic euphoria. So that night turned me into a hardcore atheist. I already kind of was an atheist prior to that. Excuse me, bless me. I kind of was an atheist prior to that for most of my childhood. Maybe after like third grade, I just couldn't get down with all the Christianity stuff I was raised in. I was like, nah, bro, there's too many plot holes here. But yeah, that night really solidified the atheism, because I was like, I'll never forget one of the big homies in high school. His name's Akira. He was one of my like, he was a middleman for a while for me, in a myriad of avenues. But yeah, he was like, I'm sure you've seen enough of hell and enough of heaven, just like me, to know that neither are real. And I was like, yo, that's profound. I'm gonna shut this door so I have some privacy. Okay, so that trip really impacted me greatly. I've never been quite the same since then. I got really into downers after that. I mean, that was a traumatizing experience, but I did not stop smoking dabs. I did not stop wanting to do psychedelics. I did not stop. The only thing that happened was I started hitting the alcohol and the benzos and shit harder. You know what I mean? So, all right, fast forward. Let me give you the background. Like, academics were always my go-to. I have autism, which I came to terms with that as an adult when multiple autists had been like, bro, when did you get diagnosed? And I was like, fuck you talking about? And they were like, people with Asperger's, and they were like, dude, how many of your friends have antique coin collections and antique rock collections to the extent of yours? And like, how many of your friends could, list off XYZ or do this and that? And it kind of clicked, and I was like, oh fuck. And then I began asking people in my life, like, yo, like, I think I have autism. And they were like, hey buddy, we're glad you're coming to terms with some stuff, that's okay, And I was like, yo, what the fuck? No one's ever like, there's this plague of people who are just like either shitty people or like socially awkward people or just like mentally ill people or just like not good people or boring people who don't have a personality or an identity, who are now claiming autism in mass these days. And I was worried, like, yo, people are gonna think I'm doing this for attention, or like, I was expecting the people in my life to be like, bro, no you don't fall, you're online too much, like, don't. But everyone I've ever ran it by is like, yeah man, like, glad you're realizing that. And I got tested, got diagnosed by a doctor, and even my therapist now, I brought it up. I was like, yeah, man, like, I think I'm pretty sure I'm on the autism spectrum. He goes, yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. So anyways, school was always my thing, man. My parents were extremely strict, like authoritarian parents. They're like, you're going to go to UNC. My dad never went to college. He was a big UNC fan. It's a good school. It's a hard school to get into for the most part. So that was always like, I'm sitting here looking at like the big UNC poster behind the camera, Michael Jordan Duncan. So, but yeah, bro, I always made straight A's in high school. For the most, I think I made like a B in a math class maybe once, but other than that, it was like all A's. And yeah, dude, joined a lot of clubs and extracurriculars and stuff, because my sort of rationale there was, if I get into as many
clubs as possible and as many extracurriculars as possible, I can be off smoking weed with people and doing drugs and getting high, and I can always tell my parents, "Hey, yo, I'm at this thing or whatever. I'm at math team. I'm at National Honor Society, whatever," and it looks good to get into college. So my parents never knew I was an addict. There were signs. I think they just turned a blind eye. Like when I was 19, I showed up at their door from the trap and was like, yo, I'm heavily addicted to benzos and alcohol and other things, and like I'm really scared of having a seizure. I'm gonna taper off here at home. And they didn't know how to react. They kind of didn't react. They were just like, okay, like what? And I was going to a PHP program. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but yeah, then the PHP lady convinced me to check myself into a detox, and that started a revolving door cycle that went pretty hard. So anyways, high school, yeah, man, doing all types of drugs, but my main thing is like I'm like drinking DXM on the way to school in the mornings, sleeping over at people's houses and raiding their moms like Hydros or Xanax or Valiums or whatever. I'm taking people's Ritalin, people's Concerta, people's Vyvanse, people's Adderall at school. Dabs were always my main thing because they didn't smell and I could be very discreet with them. This is back when like G-pens were really popular. This was before the era of carts. Back in my day, you had to scoop your dabs onto an atomizer and hit them that way, right? So I smoked bud all the time with people, smoking blunts in like the parks and stuff like that. But dabs were what my personal stash I always had on me. Tramadols, those were interesting. Got my hands on anything that could get you high. I really wanted to do it, man. I had tried pretty much every main classification of drugs by the time I was 16 and, became a daily user at that point. I would always drink in the mornings too, like drink at lunch at school and then drink in the mornings with sleepovers. I spent every single weekend at either my friend Evan's house or Brady's house or Cameron's house in high school. Every single weekend, always. And their parents didn't really care if we drank or smoked weed or did whatever. Some of them didn't really know. Some of their parents didn't know and just turned a blind eye. My parents were super strict against that shit. And so my house was never really like the hangout spot. And I never spent a weekend night at home. From the time I had a car on, just freaking never, dude. So I got into UNC for college. At this point, I'll never forget sitting on my friend Frosty, his porch after we'd graduated high school. We're sitting back there smoking some Deebs, taking some Glebes, drinking, and I think we had taken some Ritalin too. We had some Ambien back then too. He had a script, but anyways, we're sitting on this porch, and we're like looking at the stars, and I was just like, bro, I don't think I can stop. And he was like, what you mean? I was like, we called it the turn up or turning up. That was our word for getting high. I was like I can't stop getting turned, dude. Like I just can't. That sounds funny now when I say it out loud. I was like, I just can't stop getting turned, man. But no, I was being so earnest and serious. I was like, bro, I can't stop getting high. Like, I love it too much. And like, I've tried mentally to try to do an experiment of like, could I go without, and I've tried physically to go without, and it just wasn't. It wasn't a thing I was good at, dude. It was not a thing I was good at. And he was just like, well, he looked at me and was like, well, I think whatever you think is going to happen is going to happen. And I was like, I'm worried I'm going to become a junkie, dude. Like someone like an adult with like a drug problem. And he was like, looking back, like I already had a serious drug problem. But he was like, well, if you think you're going to end up a junkie, you're probably going to end up a junkie. If you think you're not, then you're not. And lo and behold, I ended up a junkie. I also remember proclaiming before going into college, like, yo, I am going to become the biggest drug dealer on UNC's campus. That's my goal. Did I? No, because there was cartel-affiliated motherfuckers running the shit. But I became one of their top lieutenants, if you will. There was not that many people above me, and I knew everyone that was. We were very intimately tied together. So, self-fulfilling prophecies are very real, my friends. They're very real. So, I'm going to pause here, take a break. This is all off the cuff. This is all off the dome. I'm taking a day off from my methadone today. Just wanting to do an experiment of like... okay. This is my... Let me explain this properly. Gotta hit my vape, sorry. I'm very AA pilled and therapy pilled, like recovery pilled from all the rehabs and meetings I've been to and stuff. And so I'm used to, I guess, lying about sobriety, but also about, like, I don't know, being very careful about. Did my screen just go out? Is it still filming even when the screen goes on? I guess so. I don't know. I'm sure it still works. So I am still sober. I'll be. Some people may disagree with that one, is what I'm about to tell you. But Monday, so tomorrow, will be 2 months sober. Why does it say Sunday, July 20th on my computer? Anyways, bro, I'm getting distracted. But yesterday, I had weekend take-homes for my methadone. Like, they gave me Saturday and Sunday's dose. And, of course, being the addict I am, I took both doses yesterday all at once to see how it felt, taking 60 milligrams instead of 30 milligrams. Tomorrow I'm moving up to 35 milligrams. But also, like, this might be addict rationale or justification, but I was like, oh yeah, I also want to gauge what it's like to be one day without methadone. I want to see how bad the withdrawals get. I want to see where I'm at with it. So the recovery crowd, like the sober purists, be screaming like, well, you're not sober, you abused your methadone, you got high on your methadone. I don't really give a fuck, dude. Methadone's helping me stay off of everything else. Like, I'm not doing anything else. The way I do my methadone or the way I take my take homes, other than, like, you know, go a day without or so, like, that's my prerogative. That's my business. Like, yeah, through the AA lens, like, oh man, like, yeah, he tried to get high. He was searching out a feeling. Like, yeah, duh, dude. I'm the first one to tell you, I'm still someone that wants to get high. That's why I'm on methadone, because I need something to keep my brain, like, satiated and satisfied. But I used this with Suboxone the whole time I've been on Suboxone. That's always my MO, was just like wait until I got sick and then take it more. Then I learned about, like, you know, 2 milligrams and under doses of Suboxone contain more norbuprenorphine, and norbuprenorphine is more euphoric and it's just more recreational than actual buprenorphine. It's the metabolite that buprenorphine turns into in your body. But that's always what I was doing with Suboxone, and I never really had an issue. I don't know. I would go insane if I looked at things through the AA lens of, like, well, am I on a mood or mind altering chemical, or what's my motive? Am I trying to get high? It's like, dude, I'm just trying to. Harm reduction is my way, bro. Harm reduction is my way, right? And I'm still going to be I claim MAT sobriety. I always say, you know, yeah, I'm sober. I'm methadone sober. I'm on a pretty potent opioid. It's government sanctioned dog food, if you ask me. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I don't think I'm regressing, or, like, a lot of people could be rolling their eyes at this or be like, oh yeah, we'll wait and see. If he's doing that with methadone, it's just a matter of time before he relapses. But nah, dude, I'm always going to be experimenting and, like, potentiating meds I take, like methadone, for example, like Suboxone, like trying to potentiate it or trying to, like, sort of, like, cheat the system, I guess, in a sort of way to want to see if I can get a good feeling out of it. But, like, it's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with seeking out a good feeling or having a good feeling. People in AA over the years that I've encountered are, like, terrified of feeling good. Like, I don't know. And I get it in a large scale. There's a lot of things that I'm too scared to touch because I have a lack of self-control with them, and I don't want to go back to how I used to live. But anyways, from someone sipping the death jug, and I'll get into that in a little bit, or taking 5 to 8 different substances a day, or doing stuff in just obscene quantities and mixtures, I'm doing pretty good right now. And, you know, I double dosed my methadone yesterday. It was kind of underwhelming. I just got, like, dizzy for the most part, and, like, now today I'm really anxious, and I'm noticing that I'm not doing nearly as well recording this as I was yesterday when I recorded the intro. I'm going to push through because I said I was going to drop the episode today. So I'm going to finish recording today, and I'm going to drop the episode today. But I think I'm going to give just the timeline of everything rather than deep dive on the stories. I think I'll save some, like, if that makes sense. Like, I'm giving the timeline of my addiction and the trapping and everything, but and I gave a little trip report there about the ladder goat trip, as me and Frosty call it, because in the LSD trip I mentioned where I had the drug-induced psychosis, there's a YouTube video called Ladder Goat of a guy playing a game, and a video game, and a goat gets spawned into a ladder, and he just laughs really absurdly at it, and the video is called Ladder Goat, and I thought it was really funny when I was fucking 15 or 16. And when I snapped with a drug-induced psychosis, I started running around when I was punching him and like ripping the TV off the wall and stuff. I was screaming, ladder goat, ladder goat, ladder goat, ladder goat, ladder goat. So, yeah. I gave a bit of a trip report with the ladder goat thing, but as far as like some really crazy stories being on the news for skateboard attack, certain overdose stories, certain crazy drug combo stories, getting the cops called on me threatening the dude with the golf club. I'm sure I'm going to forget tons of stories as I go over this, but I feel like I'm just going to gloss over them. And in future episodes or with a guest or someone, or when I'm like interviewing someone, like me and the homie Jack's going to be a co-host on here a lot. David hopefully will be as well. I think I can save a lot of the in-depth stories to, maybe that can be like a sort of side story like episode every now and then where I, just go in depth on crazy drug stories. But for today, I think I'm just going to give y'all the timeline of how I got to where I'm at right now. And yeah, so I'm going to pause this now and, chapter 1 complete. But yeah, I'm very anxious and like, overstimmed without the methadone. But I will say, compared to Suboxone, whenever I would get sick in between Suboxone doses all the time. With this methadone, I'm like, I think methadone has a 36-hour half-life. I think Suboxone's half-life is 20 to 50 hours. But you metabolize Suboxone, it metabolizes differently every time. It's not as consistent as methadone, which is just the same oral dose. Or doses are increasing for me. But like with Suboxone, when it absorbs buccally or sublingually, it's like, did you have water to drink beforehand? Did you swallow the spit or not? How long did you let it dissolve? Did you vape right after you took it? There's always... So it was weird, dude. I don't know if I'm a fast metabolizer of buprenorphine or what, but I would get sick. Like, if I only took Suboxone once a day, I would get pretty sick. And especially if I waited a day, I would get sick. But with this, mentally, yeah, I'm very anxious and I don't feel good. But physically, I'm not really having any symptoms yet. I'm sure I will wake up tomorrow probably with some symptoms, but I'm going back to the clinic tomorrow. And I don't get any other take-homes besides the weekend dose. But anyways, that's enough of me justifying and virtue signaling and being like, guys, I swear I didn't relapse. Like, I'm not even going to call it a mistake because, like, I don't regret it. I was I was curious. I wanted to see what the double dose of methadone felt like, and I also wanted to see what I was in for, I guess, missing a day of the methadone. So, anyways, yeah, chapter 1 complete. There's no planning for this at all. I'm going off the cuff, just off the dome. So anything y'all want to hear more about, please let me know. And I will 100% go into more detail in other episodes about specific stories, specific addictions, like riding around Atlanta, letting a homeless dude and his OG drive my car and smoking meth in the car with them and robbing a Goodwill. A 1,4-butanediol addiction where I had to dose every 2 hours while living in a halfway house and constantly overdosing. Having to abort a candy flip with Seroquel because my sanity was very fickle at the time. Just let me know. But this is going to be just a straightforward thing. So anyways, yeah, man. Chapter 1 was a little intro. Chapter 2 here. Let's get into when I went to UNC. So, I went to UNC with 4 grams of wax and a couple tabs of acid for personal use. Immediately sold the grams of wax to some dudes I met in my hall. Went back to Raleigh to get more. Really, sorry, that lady was doing a schizo ramble. I met this guy at UNC. We're going to call him D. We're going to talk about a lot about D, A, T, C, the farmer, Danny K. I just said his name. I don't know what he's up to these days, but the other people I got to use abbreviations and little fake monikers. So I meet this guy named D when I get to UNC, right? He had most of the fraternities there on lock. He was working for a guy named C and A. He also had some independent plugs separate from them. So I wouldn't say he was working for them. He was working with people. They had other fraternities, not at UNC, like neighboring fraternities at NC State. And now the whole ring had people at App State, Duke. We had people
in our specific, like in me and D's book of business at ECU, NC State, UNC, tons of people in Raleigh. Shout out Scarecrow 6. I got the shirt on right now. Matches the tattoo. That's another story. So, D sees that I have this autistic loyalty and this, like, you know, extreme willingness and desire to sell drugs. He's like, hey man, why don't you, you know, go take this pack, go drop it off here. I'll give you some free weed and some commission for it. I was willing to drop everything and skip class immediately to do this. I ended my first semester at UNC with three C's and an F. No, I'm sorry, 3 F's and a C. The next semester, I ended up dropping all my classes to just one class, which I got like a B or C in. The next semester, sophomore year, never went to any classes, dropped out, left the second semester, came back for the junior semester on academic probation, and then dropped out the second semester and was just living on campus, just still trapping hard. So anyways, let me not get ahead of myself. So I quickly turn into D's runner, right? I have a ability to go into his house when no one's there, like a key to it. Well, he showed me how to pick the lock in the back, and I'd slide in. Combos to the safes there, like the containers where we kept everything, all this, right? We had an ongoing ledger, and we ended up splitting most everything 50-50 later on down the line, but at first I was 100% his lieutenant. I was working for him, helping move his shit, right? Let's say he's getting 10 pounds of weed at a time per re-up. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But D didn't like to sell other drugs. He warned me about, you know, working with people who were on benzos. I mean, Future said it best. Money touch a person's hands on a few Zans, might as well count it. Yeah. And just the danger of selling cocaine and everything else. Like, they'll hit you with the rap, you know, hit you with the book for all that stuff. So, yeah, a lot of this is very blurry because I got heavily into benzos. And yeah, dude, freshman year, it's really just me making tons of delivery plays in large amounts, me making some personal plays, and me and D just really splitting a book of business. We moved between different plugs, but the whole time the common factors, the common denominators were this group of people, C, A, and the farmer. C and A are two different people, right? Yeah, and the farmer. Later on, T came into the picture. So, oh man. Sophomore year, I get up there. This is when I lived off campus with my best friend Cameron in a house his dad owned. 205 Barnes Street, shout out. It's like a little, you know, turning that bitch into a trap. Started stockpiling shoes. Now, throughout these 2 years, right, my first and second year at UNC, I am on amphetamines every single day, cocaine whenever I'm not on amphetamines, benzos every single day, drinking alcohol every single day, smoking an obscene amount, at least a gram of wax every single day, more often than not an eighth of wax every single day. And back then in the beginning, dude, we're copping packs for like 2,000 to 24 and moving them for like 28, or we're just ouncing them and quapping them out, moving quaps for like 750, ounces for 200 flat. This is an interesting setup. Over time, things got way cheaper the more I got plugged in. So we switched between plugs, whatnot. D graduates and has to leave UNC. He was 2 years older than me, so it's a sophomore year, and he was going up to get a big boy job in New York. He told me, whatever you do, just stick by A and C. They will keep you safe. Do whatever they say. And he's like, bro, please be careful. I see you on the side. I was going with this guy named Danny K, right? And the farmer on the side, and copping cocaine and benzos en masse to sell. Oh, man. I could go into so much more depth with all of this. It's overwhelming to think about. And it's also hard to talk about off the cuff with no notes. I probably should have prepared and written more notes down and stuff, but if I had done that, I would have been much more inclined to. This would just be a lot longer. I would have been more inclined to ramble on and on about specific things. So let me just get to it, I guess. Continue to get to it. So, when I first met T, that was like something out of a fucking movie. I had been working with A at this point, and I had leveled up my trap to where, right, I probably had between 40 and 80 individual customers. Some of them were other drug dealers, but a lot of it was just people who I would sell them their personal amount. I'd sell any amount, right? And then it quickly became not feasible and annoying to do so. When I had so many people buying in bulk, I would only move to then selling to drug dealers. So I take on, when I level up from D, and we had multiple different plugs, but we always sort of reverted back to C, A, the farmer, and then now T. So here's how it broke down. C got out of the game around the same time Doug did. Oh, fuck. D did. I don't know who that is. I don't think he minds if I say this. He goes by a different name now anyways. Oh, God. Alright, well, fuck it. I'm keeping it. There was a man, cartel-affiliated man, his family, right? Last name Ochoa. His name's... I don't know. I gotta be careful. Ochoa Jr. is the last part of his name. Underneath him was the farmer, A, and T. But I would say T and the farmer had a little bit more of a connection to the Ochoas than A did. And I was working underneath A the way I initially started out working under D. Following me here? I hope so. A tells me, hey man, you're moving the same amount of, product at this point that I am. Let's say I'm getting quarter pound of cocaine every re-up, 2,000 Zans, pressed Zans every re-up, ounce of Molly here and there, pound of mushrooms here and there, several sheets of acid here and there, pretty regularly. A pound of wax at a time, and let's say 5 to 10 pounds of weed at a time. He's like, yo, you are moving the same amount I'm moving. T wants to meet you. Go to this diner. He'll have some bodyguards with him, as he always does. Come here in the morning, and I'll go with you. You know what I mean? And yeah, you'll know. I told him what you look like. You'll know him when you see him. So the morning comes around. A tells me, yeah, sorry, bro, I'm out making a play. Can't make it. But he says you're still good to go. So I go and I meet one of the scariest, meanest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. He's sitting there he usually had at least 2 bodyguards with him, 2 big-ass motherfuckers. And he always sometimes had multiple girls with him, like multiple girlfriends. One time I ran into him at the mall, the South Point Mall. I hear, yo, when I look over and I'm Christmas shopping for my girl and some friends and stuff, and I see him sitting there with 2 girls and a bodyguard, T this is, and he goes, I fucking love this kid, he makes me so much money, and every time I see him he's always got sunglasses on. My glasses had broken and I ran out of contacts, so I wore just prescription sunglasses for like 2 years. Morning, night, doesn't matter. I gotta get away from all this background noise. And he goes, hey man, I got 2 girlfriends now, check it out. And he's like sitting in between them with his arms around them. And then he opens up this bag he's holding. It's got like 10 new iPhones in it. Shit was crazy. So anyways, backtrack. I go into the diner. I see this guy sitting there with 2 bodyguards. Maybe he had a girl with him, can't really remember. He goes, so you're the kid I've been hearing all about. He's like, you're the reason why A keeps needing to re-up so frequently. Well, I figured I'll just, take on you both. Like, what's up? You ready for more responsibility? You ready to be serious? And he was like, you're getting into some family ties shit here. You want to work with us, you're stepping up into the big leagues. He made me give my parents' address up to him as collateral. As I did, he then pulls out a picture of hands and feet that him and the Ochoa people had sent Migo to collect the hands and feet off of a kid. The hands and feet. Not only were their hands and feet dismembered in this picture, but they were nailed to the kid's mother's doorstep. Now, me and D, before he left the year prior, we had worked with T like a lot sooner. Or no, I think I'm mixing up. I think D maybe hadn't left yet. Yes, we did work with T sooner while D was still here. We worked with T while he was still here. But, well, okay, I think D left. Okay, this is my sophomore year of UNC, right? What I'm talking about with meeting T at the diner, I feel like that is beginning of sophomore year. I remember things. D didn't leave until end of sophomore year. He did not leave until the end of the, quote, sophomore year. So I think I then went and introduced T and D together. I really can't remember how it worked. I just do remember meeting him in the diner. And then I also remember D being very much associated with me and him working together. The reason why I'm getting hung up here, caught up, right, is because I just remember specifically me and D got set up by this kid at ECU. He was Snapchatting us pictures of all the money. The money looked too crisp. It looked like fucking movie money. Lo and behold, the feds were right there behind all the Snapchats, providing the money to this guy. And me and D were about to get in the car and drive up 8 pounds to him. I believe it was either 4 or 8 pounds of weed. D has a inclination hey, I don't feel too good about this. Let's call T and get a runner. So we call T. He sends a runner, this girl Latifah, I think it was. As soon as she pulls up there, boom, cops swarm her, arrest her with the pack, and get her she had a bag of coke with residue in it. They got her for that, which sucked. But I remember T offering me and D saying, hey, I can send Migo up to that kid's family's house, and he will be back across the border before the ashes settle. I'm not torching the dude's family alive in their house. Me and D were like, no, do not do that. Sorry, I got the hiccups again. That's gonna come back on us. There's no need to do that. So, lots of instances and things like that. So yeah, we were not rocking with just local drug dealers anymore. These were pretty big time people. I had a girlfriend. She was great. My first serious girlfriend. One time, T walked into my trap house with a Kenmore Elite refrigerator box filled with 15 pounds of weed, dropped it on the floor. He had his bodyguard with him. He put out a Desert Eagle, cocks it, and holds it to that girl's head and goes, who the fuck is this bitch? She's seen my face. Does she know what the fuck is up? And I was like, bro, she's good. I'm just barred out to fuck. I'm like, bro, she's good. That's my girlfriend. It's all good. And he was like, all right, well, she better know we will find her family and take care of business if she ever says a word. And then he de-chambers the bullet or whatever, and one flies out of the gun. I don't know too much about guns work. I just like to carry them and point them. And he was like, oh, you got a free round. And then, they left. And the girl looked at me and goes, are you going to let him talk to me like that? What was that? And I was like, oh, yeah, I am, bitch. He's the one with the gun pointed at your head. That's my boss. I gotta obey orders. So, around this time also, I was sipping the death jug. My addiction was pretty intense. I would wake up every morning and fill a gallon jug with coffee, liquor, Adderall, gabapentin. I had these weed lollipops I would crush up with brass knuckles, and I would dump all the weed lollipop stuff into the jug. So we got coffee, liquor, Xanax, Adderall, gabapentin, Ambien, codeine if I had it, and the weed lollipop crumbs, pulverized powder. I feel like there's probably some other stuff, but yeah, it was a solid mixture that I would sip on every single day. The farmer came by one time and had to pick up some money because it was all we're all working together. I would get stuff from whoever was available around at the time, and the money was all going up to the same source, up to the Ochoas. So, farmer slapped me in the face, counted my money for me to pay him back because I could not count my money properly. I was like, ugh. I remember D called me and was like, bro, what the fuck is this? Them having to count your money for you. Get your shit together, bro. Let me hear about that again. Oh man, there's lots of stories. I tried to start a shoe selling company. I got obsessed with buying shoes. I had probably 40 to 80 different pairs of shoes. And whenever people would come by to cop, they'd be like, yo, what size shoe are you? And I had like a little mini Foot Locker back in my bedroom in the trap. But man, there's so many stories, so many things I could get into. It's honestly ridiculous. So much of it is clouded over from all the benzos and alcohol. I'll never forget the first time I had benzo withdrawal around this period of time. There was a little drought and we were out of Zans for like a week. And no matter how much I drank, dude, I could not sleep proper and was so restless and it was just horrible. And then I realized, yeah, fuck, I'm going through benzo withdrawal. And I'd been going through alcohol withdrawal for a hot minute. I got that when I was 18, right, at the first time. Just the shakes and everything. I remember pounding a couple beers and going back to normal, being like, damn, I only thought this happened to old people, bro. Fuck, it's happening to me. So I'm just going to bounce over a lot of things here. I got robbed through the mail, through people not paying back fronts. And by the mail, I mean like me trying to, send an order to other people. This is before I got really tapped into consistently having shit through the cartel. When me and D were operating between different plugs. And yeah, people just took the money, never sent the packs, or said, oh, the pack got seized when it didn't. This one guy, W, we'll call him, owed me about $70,000. He got popped, never paid any of it back. Told me if I ever tried to come collect, he would call the feds on me. Call the feds, let them know everything I was doing and how we were operating. Looking back, there was a CI that infiltrated the group in 2017. That's how everything came down. I don't think it was him because, yeah, he was separate from the Chapel Hill people. He just kind of got fucked on and never said anything about me to the cops. My tagline to people always was, it's out of my control what happens to you and your loved ones if you snitch on us. And I'm a skinny white dude. I'm not going to do jack shit to you. But the people I work for will. But if you don't snitch, we'll pay your lawyer fees, we'll bail you out of jail, we'll put money on your books, and we'll take care of your family if you have to go in and do a bid. And we kept true on that for most people. So, just in retrospect, dude, it's wild how I got tied up into all this shit. It's genuinely ridiculous. There was a group of people in Raleigh called Scarecrow 6 I got a part of. It was a music collective that I was fans of at first, and I turned into supplying them with some substances. I pulled up to a house party with samples for them all one day. And then the rest was history, man. They're like some of my best friends, some of my brothers. So I had the Raleigh crew going. We had the Chapel Hill crew, which expanded out to many other demographics, groups, and areas. At one point, we got sick. When D is gone, me and A got sick of T's weed. T would handle most of the weed stuff from the cartel, and Farmer handled all the other stuff, all the harder drugs, all the cocaine, all the pills, all the psychedelics, everything else. And then me and A would just get from T and Farmer whatever we needed and had a mutual business running. One of my friends in Scarecrow 6, he ended up leaving Scarecrow 6, but he was out some music festival in Cali, met this girl, this hippie plug, and he was like, he called me, he was trimming on her farm, and he was like, bro, I got the plug, and I was like, shut the fuck up, bro, I'm your plug, like, fuck you mean? He was like, nah, bro, put your pride aside, like, she's got the hookup for really cheap wax and really cheap weed. Back then, a pound of wax, you could bust it down and sell it, or even move it wholesale for like between $5,000 and $8,000, but more realistically, it was like between like $6,200, $6,800, $7,200, based on who we were moving it to and what quality it was. But she was giving us pounds of wax for $3,200, man. That was really, really solid shit. And then pounds of weed for $1,200 that I could reliably and regularly move for $1,600, $1,800, $2,000, and $2,400. All the same packs I'd move for that amount, based on who it was that I was selling them to, right, and how much I knew they would pay. Which, yeah, if you're hearing this, sorry. That's how the game works. The game gives, the game takes. Remember the first time I got robbed, this is backtracking, but D sat me down and was like, yo, you want to sit and cry about it, or do you want me to front you some more and you keep going? Like, crazy lessons I learned. T had a runner named Reyes, and Reyes went to pick up, they're both in prison right now. Reyes went to go pick up 300 pounds in California. Got it from Frankie's family, or Ochoa's family. I said his name. I'm keeping it. Oh well. And the Subaru, the 300 pounds of weed in it, broke down in Arizona. He called T. Reyes was like, "Yo, what the fuck do I do?" He's like, "Bro, you get the hell out of there right now, and we'll send you a ride to come get you." The car's dead in the middle of like a desert highway with 300 pounds of weed in it. It's a matter of time before the cops come up on it and search it. So they lost that pack, and then I remember Mr. Ochoa Jr. flew up the Chapel Hill from Cali, took T to the bank, and signed over his brand new four-door Jeep that T had just gotten to him, you know, as collateral for the pack he had just lost and had to cover. There's just so many little stories and things like that, man. So many robberies, so many people getting held down at gunpoint, and shootings and straw man purchases I had to make for my friends that were felons that needed guns once they had been held down at gunpoint. I'm like, well, y'all gotta be strapped. I had an arms dealer, could put a switch on anything. Rest in peace, Colton. He's the man. He had access to fucking grenades, bro. He had anything you could have ever wanted or needed. T did not like when me and A moved to working for the hippie chick. Not one bit. We weren't really working for her. We just outsourced our weed, and we convinced him that I was fully out of the game, which he knew was a lie. And yeah, bro, I had this other play that I kept maintaining some middling stuff too, but I put him on to T at one point because he was really one of my biggest customers, and I was trying to consolidate stuff and focus more on other people and other substances, like more of the harder substances. T was primarily a weed dealer, and I remember walking out of this dude's house. I think I just bought like an AR-15 from him. This one guy, not the arms dealer, this is a separate guy, right? And he walks out of the house. I walk out of the house, and come face to face with T standing there with his bodyguard holding a big ass duffel bag. And T looks at me and shakes his head and goes, "I know you're not out of the fucking game, motherfucker." And it didn't matter that we were still all working for the Ochoas by proxy, right? And that I was still working with Farmer and A. He just didn't like that I quit getting my weed from him. He hated it. He goes, "Motherfucker, you're so lucky I got several pounds of shrooms on me right now. If I wasn't here to make this play, you'd be fucking dead." I hightailed it the fuck out of there, bro. Even though that guy was my neighbor and we lived in the same apartment complex, I left the complex acting like I was going elsewhere. I was on the news in Chapel Hill around this time frame as well. What I'm talking about a lot now is the quote junior year, where I just ended up living at Chancellor Square at an apartment complex there, and just trapping hard, not going to school, had just dropped out, and was probably bringing in $15,000 profit every 2 to 4 weeks, paying back anyone. Like at this point, me and A were working shit together. Like I was no longer paying him back. We were just paying the hippie chick in Cali back, and we were paying Farmer, and the Ochoas. But it was probably paying back anywhere from 40 to 70 grand, and then keeping 10 to 15 profit from that every 2 to 4 weeks. It was a solid gig. It was a very solid gig. And it fucked up the way my brain works for modern entry-level positions and whatnot. But, yeah, there was one point I was on the news wanted for a skateboard attack. I told that story on my Instagram a while back. You can go catch it there in my reels. I didn't attack anybody with a skateboard, but the homie did. Just a lot of misadventures up in Chapel Hill. A lot of misadventures. Let's see. Got robbed for $4,000 by one guy in Cali, $2,000 by another, $1,800 by another, $70,000 from the guy who got raided and arrested driving under the influence with a huge re-up I had given him. It's more than that. There's fronts I had to cut off totaling maybe $35,000 mixed between honestly a lot of people I'm not gonna go there, but they were the homies, so it's all good. I wrote a lot of that off, but I learned a lot, man. I learned a lot, and I will get into more and more and more details as this podcast grows and progresses. I'll become more organized, but I'm just giving y'all the cliff notes for now. So I started going to rehab when I was 19. I went to Holly Hill for detox, horrible alcohol, benzo withdrawals. I was also addicted to stimulants really heavily, and lots of other shit. Went back to Holly Hill 2 months later, went to a rehab door-to-door. maybe I'll tell the treatment circuit another time, but I've been to over 20 different detoxes and facilities, including 4 this year. I'm only 2 months out of one now, but I've kept ending up in detox, and I gotta be like straight up dying to want to go to detox, bro. I gotta be like, I was in the ICU in March with delirium tremens, hallucinations, and seizures and stuff from alcohol and benzo withdrawals. But at my worst of all this, I was drinking a handle every single day, taking 10 to 15 pressed bars at my worst, or last year was taking entire like 60 milliliter bottles of liquid bromazolam to the dome piece, like taking between, no, I'm sorry, they were 30 milliliter bottles, 2 milligrams per milliliter, so 60 milligrams bromazolam at a time sometimes. It's fucking awful. Oh, God. Another time period in Atlanta here, I was prescribed 2 milligrams of Ativan a day, 45 milligrams temazepam a day, 600 milligrams of Lyrica a day, and 6 milligrams of Klonopin a day, as well as taking a lot of modafinil, between 800 and 1,000, 1 gram, 800 milligrams to 1 gram a day. I was smoking crack at nighttime, smoking fentanyl, snorting fentanyl and heroin, smoking meth with it. It's just absolute insanity. But I'm getting too ahead of myself. So there's one point where I get a call, right? And this is the fast forward to still, not fast forward, but just jump back to the junior year at UNC. I get a call from A saying, hey man, block is hot as fuck. They just got Farmer. They got your gun too, your AR-15 that was in there. They got 300 pounds of weed, 3 kilos of white, 5,000 Zans, a bunch of steroids, and your gun. Farmer's going down for it all, but it was at the safe house. And only me, T didn't have access to the safe house. He had his own shit going on. But me, A, and Farmer are the only people that had access, for the most part, to this safe house. A actually lived there with Farmer's mom. It was an interesting dynamic. A was in Charlotte at the time making a play. He comes down to stay with me and my little trap spot at Chancellor Square where I was living, paying the landlord by putting cash on the water heater every time rent was due. Like I'd subleased there. I never signed anything really. It was just kind of under the table living there. He comes and stays with me, does his thing for like a week. We're both making plays and whatnot. He's traveling, making plays. I'm just trapping out the spot. I had a lot of runners for me at this point in time, like other safe houses and areas where like the day the re-ups would come in, I would have everybody's pre-orders and I'd have everybody ready to come cop like their big amounts in one day. And it happened like once a week, once a month, whenever. So my spot was clean most of the time, aside from just a lot of cash, guns, and then my own personal supplies. But the day that A leaves my apartment to go get a hotel, the U.S. Marshals kick in his door. And he was in county with Farmer. They both had freaking $500,000 bails. A bonded out. I think Farmer may have bailed out. That dude was one of the richest motherfuckers I've ever seen or met in the drug game. I mean, they were like, I was small time compared to them, even though I was still moving trafficking amounts of everything. These guys were moving like triple digit pounds and, triple digit. No, not triple digit kilos. They're moving single digit and sometimes double digit kilos. But yeah, bro, shit is just absolutely insane. So everybody keeps going. This was in 2019. I ended up leaving the state December 9th, 2020 to go to treatment for 16 months straight. And while I was in treatment there, everything came crumbling down. The DEA and the FBI announced that it was a sting operation where a CI had infiltrated our circle in 2017. I don't know how the fuck no one said my name, dude, because they got a lot of people underneath me. They got people who I was their plug that had to do prison time. But they got the people at the top. They got the people above me. Everybody ended up snitching on each other except for the Ochoa. Like, he didn't say anything, but they knew they had the big cat there. But everybody pretty much snitched on each other except for
like Farmer didn't, but they had concrete evidence on him, and A didn't either. And A had mainly been pinned with all the weed that was caught in that initial seizure of the safe house. But because of the 2018 Farm Bill, the weed had sat in evidence for so long that it had degraded, and his lawyers tried to prove that the prosecution couldn't prove that the weed wasn't hemp compliant bud. And I don't know if they lost the evidence or got rid of it. They burned it before the lawyer like brought up this thing, or if it just really sat for so long that it degraded. But he fully got off, man, which is one of the most amazing, beautiful things. He's now a great guy, owns a legal hemp business, is killing it, one of the biggest in the industry. Yeah, it's like family to me. Like Dolph said it best, trapped together, that's my motherfucking brother. You risk your life with people, you really like, whew, it builds bonds that are thicker than blood. I'm skipping over all the rehab stuff here, all the halfway house stuff, the deaths, the overdoses from other people around me, my own overdoses. I just kind of wanted to, so I escaped persecution from the cartel people. A spoke on my behalf, and a lot of these dudes are ethnically similar. Some of them aren't, some of them are, but I think that does have something to do with it, genuinely. He spoke on my behalf to them and was like, yeah, this kid, he's moving on. He's a young guy. He never snitched. He never got caught. He never even got fucking caught. And he did nothing but make us money and stay loyal and stay solid. Let him retire. Let him get out. He's good. If anyone has any issues with that, take it up with me. Like, he's under my protection. So I was able to gracefully step out. T would have bammed me up if he could have. He was like fucking after me, dude. He posted on his Snapchat multiple times, stuff calling me out, shooting guns up in the air, just like, motherfucker, you think you can still work around here? Not if you're not working for me, bitch, and all this crazy shit. But I had protection, man. I had solid, scary people around me. But yeah, dude, just a skinny, autistic, nerdy kid with a passion for substances, pharmacology, getting high, all that, who saw maybe I can pay my parents back for this wasted college tuition if I, can get out and retire. But all I have to show for it these days is just fucking shoe collection and some jewelry and a bunch of bullshit. It's really not much left. I got rid of most of everything when I got into meth and heroin and crack and shit down here in Atlanta. But the more money I had, and also you got to take into account the six figure plus that I lost through people not paying fronts back, people robbing me, police doing raids, etc., etc. But really, man, the more money I had, the higher my drug addiction got, the more money I spent. There was a period in time where I was spending, I don't know how much it was. I know it was probably over $300 a day on just Whippets alone. I was buying the expensive coke. Like, Farmer would always have these bricks laid out, and he was like, all right, this is like raw, uncut. Like, this will make girls and non-addicts overdose. Like, only get this if it's for you or if you're going to cut it yourself. He was like, this is like the 70% cut, and then this over here is like the 50% pure. Like, 70% pure, 50% pure. Like, what do you want to do? And I was always getting the stuff straight off the brick for my personal use, that straight gummy raw stuff. I always tell people, like, the 1,000th time I did cocaine was the first time I really did cocaine. Once you get access to pure raw cocaine, like, your cocaine should never, when you're cutting it up, the rocks should never like bing, like fly out or anything like that or be hard. Like, real raw cocaine is gummy and oily, and it cuts like smooth butter. And it's almost hard to snort in lines. You kind of have to like ball it up and like massage it up in your nose. At least I like to do it that way. It was something else, dude. And a small amount lasts a lot longer than people give it credit for lasting. I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice, and I'll probably, by like glossing over so many stories in depth, a big reason of what led me to want to make this podcast, and like this is only still chapter 2. I now got to tell the story of like post Chapel Hill involvement, post like organized involvement, what sobriety was like my first time I did it, and then being on a sick one for the past several years and starting to trap again down here. That'll be the next chapter I'm about to tell. But I totally just forgot what I was saying, honestly. I just lost my train of thought. But I feel like I am doing myself a disservice by not diving in to some of these stories more and more and more, or like glossing over a lot of the good ones. But I think I'll listen to this after the fact and be like, oh yeah, I gotta do this. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. The thing that drove me to want to do this, aside from just people liking my content on Instagram and telling me like, hey man, like, you should make a podcast. You should tell your stories like more longer form. Like I listen, I look into it. Was being in rehab so many times and being around, quote, drug dealers who never got above like, 5-figure re-ups, or even buying just ounces of things for several $100s, whether it's meth, whatever, coke. You can get an ounce of coke if you're really tapped in for like $600. But people who act like they were Pablo Escobar, who never saw like people rolling around with 6 figures, or were never around people that were making 7 figures off substances, or never saw amounts that needed entire storage units to contain of the substance, you know what I mean? And so I was just like, damn, like I know I'm not a super big fish. Like there was tons of other people out there just like me. For every Ochoa Jr. that's running like a small, let's say a city's worth of influence, like there's tons of people even like him, man. The chain just keeps going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. But there's tons and tons of people like me, and that moved way more than me. Moving like 10, 15 pounds of weed at a time, maybe 20 at the most, like a couple pounds of wax, thousands of pills, quarter pounds, half pounds of powders, vials of liquid acid, pages of acid, all of that. Those are big numbers. And in every rehab, you'd be hard-pressed that I've been in a recovery circle. Yeah, I was normally the only one that, I've met maybe one other dude that moved shit the way I've moved it through all the rehab stints. But I'm not special, and it's not that big time. What's interesting about it, though, is how organized everything was and how many close calls there were. Like mailing money through the U.S. Postal Service, the different methods we had, the way things would come in the mail, in paint containers. There was just so much fascinating shit. But I realized while telling stories in rehabs over these years, when they were a lot fresher, honestly, had them better organized and more in depth, people were always like, bro, what the hell, like that shit's crazy. First off, you get called a liar by half the people, and then half the other people are like, they've seen enough to know that, nah, he's using the right terminology, he knows the right prices, etc., etc. You can't make that shit up. Like, they've seen enough to know, okay, no, yeah, I've been around enough people or enough circles to know that, yeah, this guy probably was doing what he said he was doing. But I was like, damn, my story needs to be told, because there's a lot of people out here fake claiming like the trap, and it's like, bro, you were a middleman, sit the fuck down. You were serving personal, sit the fuck down. But anyways, I used to make it part of my identity and think it was so cool and special, and now I'm not really ashamed. I'm ashamed of how I hurt a lot of people who had to like leave, drop out of college and stuff because benzo addiction and whatnot, and then their friends would be like, hey, so-and-so's back in town, like, do not sell them benzos, please. And then I would text them and be like, hey buddy, you want to come over, I got you some benzos. It's fucked up. So I'm ashamed of how I impacted a lot of people. I'm ashamed that all the people I held guns to, the people I held switchblades to, people I threatened, people I scared, the girls that were traumatized that I dated that were always adjacent to the trap life, my current girlfriend, how she had to Narcan me back to life and get traumatized, and me destroying our house a couple times in a benzo alcohol blackout rage. I'm ashamed of a lot of that stuff, but I'm not ashamed of my path overall, because it made me into who I am today. So now I'm going to fast forward to the 16 months I spent in treatment from December 9th, 2019 until almost April of 2021, and then to now. And yeah, just know that for the whole big timeline I just gave, and I'll stop repeating this now, I know I've been saying this a lot. For the whole timeline I just gave, there is a whole episode worth, many episodes worth of stories that I just didn't even say or glossed over, and I will for sure get into those in the future. I think it'll go better if I have someone on and we go band for band storytelling wise, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that reminds me of this, or yo, tell me a crazy story, and I'll tell you a crazy story. We go back and forth. Or I can just sit down, get more disciplined, get real about this, and write notes, write shit down. But I wanted to do this off the cuff, man, to just see how much I could remember and how coherently I could tell it. I know it's not been super coherent, but 'tis the nature of traumatizing events muddled with the fog of benzo, alcohol, and other sedative use. Peace for now.
So I do want to clarify for the case, right, where everybody went down at the circle I was in at UNC, right? I mentioned when the safe house got raided and A and Farmer got those $500,000 bails set. They thought when they got out, and everybody thought that they were, okay, damn, they got popped. They're going to have to beat those cases or fight those cases. They're on bail right now. And yeah, that's business proceeded as per usual. Later on, in the winter of 2020, excuse me, bless me, the fall/winter of 2020, whenever it was, I think it was around, sorry, dropped my vape. I think it was around Christmas time. I think it was in December of 2020. That's when the FBI and DEA came out and went and rounded up, like, I think it was 22 people. It was over 20 people. It was a good amount of people. And got everybody. You can look this stuff up online if you look up Chapel Hill 2020 or UNC Drug Bust 2020. So that, I just wanted to clarify that like, yeah, that was not the end when they got arrested there. That was like they were continuing to build a case. That was not just like open and close, like boom, they kept building the case. Now, when you look up the case, they make it seem like it was a fraternity ring, and yeah, I mean, we were providing to all the fraternities up there, and there was some people in charge of each fraternity, like within their fraternity. But that was very clickbaity title to make it seem like it's better to seem like, oh, this old public institution was, the fraternities were up to no good. Oh, well, it's new. They're always up to no good. Fuck fraternities. But they make it seem like it was the fraternity people were seasoned criminals, but they were low level. Like the people, if you dive into the case and look at the affidavits and everything released, and you look at just the names according to it, it was seasoned career criminals at the top, like, leading up to the Ochoa family. So a couple other things I wanted to add before I wrote down a couple of things. Look at me. Before I move on to this chapter 3 about the period of sobriety up till now, going on a sick one the past 4 or 5 years, was so my 21st birthday. I haven't talked much about the people in Scarecrow 6 out of respect for them, but shout out to Art House, shout out Kami Fonzo, shout out Young Hazy. Those are my homies. They're all really phenomenal rappers too. I can't speak highly enough about them. Those are my brothers. Scarecrow 6 to the ditch, baby, till the casket is shut. But my 21st birthday, I had Kami Fonzo, and his ex, Mama Joe, up to the trap house, and I had Art House, and I forget who else was there. But I know A and some of his homies stopped by for a little bit. But as the night devolved, my goal was to play poker with everybody. I wanted to have a poker night. But it turned into us just sitting around and me just being beyond fucked up, not playing any poker at all. I was like, oh yeah, we'll start. Like, yeah, we'll start. But I just wanted to play music and just drink and just be fucked up. At one point, I don't remember this. I just remember waking up the next day with a duct tape around my fingers and the clip from my gun was gone. Here's how I got the gun. Let me tell you that. Fonz was at a gas station, and some dude ran up to him tweaking out, and was holding a gold chain and like a gold little bracelet and had a lighter and like burned it and was like, yeah, see, like $200, and it's like, $2,000, let's say, worth of gold for very cheap. I was like, bet, yeah, like bought it. Then dude pulls out a Beretta 40. I think it was a ghost gun. I think it had the serial number filed off, if I'm remembering properly. But he was like, yo, like $400, like, and it's like a $2,000 gun. I was like, yeah, bet, buys it. And then he's sitting there thinking, after the guy like then runs off, like, yo, this gun was definitely just used to either rob somebody for this gold, or it was used to rob a jewelry store, or all of it had to be stolen no matter what, or that like the gun could have had a body on it or something, because it was very sketchy. So he's thinking, I don't want this gun, that's really hot, like, who will buy this? He's like, oh, I got a perfect person. Calls, I'm like, hello? He's like, bro, you want to buy this gun? I was like, fuck yeah, bring it up. So I bought the gun. I was enjoying having the gun, and I stood up on the table at my 21st birthday party and cocked the gun and put it in my mouth and was like, yo, I'm sick of being here. I'm sick of being an addict. I'm sick of living. And Art House jumped up on the table and I think knocked me out and like wrestled the gun away from me and took the clip and then taped my fingers around each other. I think I'd cut my fingers because I was like texting, yo, what's up with the duct tape on my fingers? And he was like, bro, it's a military Band-Aid. You were bleeding. But I think it was also so I couldn't like pull a trigger. But yeah, so they didn't want to hang out with me for a while after that because the drinking was just too scary for people to be around. And I was too unpredictable. So there's that story. As far as how Farmer would get all his bars, like the pressed benzos, he would go to a bar. I'm not going to say the name of it, but he'd go to like a restaurant/bar in downtown Raleigh, order a secret drink. This is what he told me. Order a secret drink that was not on the menu, and then someone would come by and he'd like go and get to the bathroom or whatever. And then he would, when he'd come back from the bathroom, there would be a book bag or duffel bag underneath in his booth, like under like where his feet would be in his booth at the restaurant, and it would be filled with like, I don't even know how many pressed bars this dude was getting. Probably 50,000, 100,000. It was an ungodly amount, enough to fit in a fucking duffel bag. So there's that story. That's fun. And then another quick story I wanted to get into, crazy shit from the trap, was T showed me a video on his phone, and he was like, check this shit out. He's like, we're high tech. This is how we're moving with stealth. And actually, no. I'm sorry. It wasn't. He didn't pull out his phone and show me a video. This was on. I think this was on his Snapchat story or a Snapchat he sent to me. But it was him filming it in person. And it is a brand new car, an SUV. I think it was some sort of Jeep. The odometer, like a Grand Cherokee or something. The odometer said, 00000. It was all zeros. And he's filming it, and he presses a combo in like the AC buttons, the radio buttons, etc., just the buttons in like the center console. And then when he finishes the button combo, the inside of the center console goes. It was like a hydraulically rigged up, and it revealed a hull that was hollowed out in the center of the car, just filled to the brim with fucking drugs, dude. And then, you could enter something back in on the little thing, and then it would come back up and perfectly conceal it. So the technology they had was off the chart, dude. All types of crazy stuff I saw. He had like this insane apparatus on his phone one time, like all these cords hanging out of it, and it's like an external battery pack. I was like, what's that? He's like, this is in case I'm ever on the run from the police, man. This scrambles my IP nonstop, so they can't track where I'm at. It like disrupts my cell signal, so they can't trace it, and it's also will keep my phone alive for like 36 hours without having to charge it in case I ever need to, have my phone and be on the run. Which I'm sure a lot of people can get that technology. That's not that impressive, but it was just like interesting to me. And I'll never forget, dude, my lungs are fucked. I gotta stop vaping. It's messed up. But then he says to me, he was like, we'll outsmart Chapel Hill PD, Raleigh PD, and Durham PD forever. But the moment the FBI and DEA get involved, we're fucked. And he, like Frosty said at the beginning of this, like before I went to college, when he was like, man, whatever you believe is going to happen will happen. Lo and behold, Travis I said it. I'm dropping everybody's name, dude. God damn it. T manifested the future. So there was that.
Yeah, all right. So I went to treatment December 9th, 2019 to a free state-run institution called Wakebrook. I got a social worker appointed to me there. I got a scholarship, as they call it, to a place called Red Oak Recovery. So I went door to door to a 90-day program called Red Oak. And then I got another scholarship because I could not afford to go to these places, even with drug money and even with my parents like stepping back into my life to try to help me at this point in time. They couldn't afford it either. To a 12-month program in Alabama called the Reprieve in Opelika, Alabama. So 16 months of treatment total. At about 12 months totally sober, I convinced a doctor there to put me on modafinil, convinced him I had narcolepsy because I just needed something. Graduated the treatment program on the modafinil, started working at Red Oak's adolescent campus, Foothills. I was a BHT, then I was promoted to supervisor of all the BHTs. I was leading groups, I was doing all this good stuff. They wanted me to become program manager or program director, whatever you want to call it. But I said no. At that point in time, I left to go back to school. They didn't offer me the job directly, but they were like, "We want you. You're going to have this position if you stay here. Like, you should consider moving up here," because it was shift work. So I was living in Atlanta. I had moved to Atlanta with two guys I met at the Reprieve, and then my ex-girlfriend had moved in with us too. And I was driving up 4 hours once a week to go live at Foothills for 8 days straight, and then I had 6 days off where I'd come back down to Atlanta. So it was only a 4 hour drive to and from, but I was passionate about that job. I loved it, but I did not want to continue leveling up within the programming side of things there because I wanted to get into the clinical side of things. So I left to go back to school. But before I left that job, though, another big reason why I left is because I was at the doctor for a checkup, right? And I'm like modafinil sober, I guess, or sober for everything else but the modafinil that I'm prescribed. And excuse me, bless me, I just blurted out like, "I'm having trouble sleeping," just classic addict fashion. And I got prescribed Lunesta, and I began abusing that, but began justifying that, well, I'm not doing other things, so it's okay. Well, that led to me being off work in October of 2021 and tripping balls on Lunesta and walking to the gas station like 4 a.m. trying to buy a bottle of wine. They wouldn't let me, so I bought some kratom extract shot and Delta 8 pen. First time smoking an alt cannabinoid because that was what was legal down here in Atlanta at the time. And I got super fucked up on the kratom and the well, as fucked up as you can get, but I hadn't done opiates in any capacity for 2 years at that point almost. So the OPMS black shot hit, and it was the old formula too. So those hit, those definitely hit. And smoked the Delta 8 while off the Lunesta and just tripped balls. Then felt so phony going back to that job, knowing that I was had like lapsed or like slipped up. And so I was like, I'm just going to go back to school, become a therapist, and try to stay sober from here on out. Did not work. I stayed sober from like October to December of 2021. But then when I left that job, which was New Year's Eve 2021, so December 31st, 2021, came back to Atlanta January 1st, started using again, and have been using ever since. It started out first with just weed, modafinil, kratom, and Lunesta. Then it moved up to like more kratom extract shots instead of just plain leaf. And then got into tripping on gabapentin, which I've made a reel about that on how to properly stagger and increase bioavailability for gabapentin in order to hallucinate on it and have crazy visuals, crazy feelings, all that. It's like a benzoamphetamine. It feels like benzos, opiates, and amphetamines all together with visuals. It's wild. But then eventually moved up to Lyrica, Ativan, Klonopin, Temazepam, drinking again, and then, yeah. This will be another story, but I encountered a real-life sociopath, someone I was very close with. I'm not going to say their name. We have mutually assured destruction. That's where we left off. I have no interest in messing up his life. He's a great person. Like, well, he's not, but I have a lot of respect for him. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. Probably the smartest person I think I've ever met in my life, one of them. And we were like rivals. We were like Ash Ketchum and fucking Gary Oak. We got along really well, but we had an extreme falling out, and that ended my living situation, and I went off the deep end after that. But yeah, he's a real-life sociopath, self-proclaimed, and I hope to share about that, because who gets to know a sociopath in person, bro? A lot of people will claim, oh yeah, that person's sociopath, you're a sociopath, this sociopathic. Nah, bro, I met a real-life sociopath, like true blue, and it's crazy. But I'll get into that another time. I was engaged to this girl while I lived over there at that townhouse in Atlanta. I still live in Atlanta, but I live with a different person now at a different place. And she told me 2 years into our relationship or so that she had cheated on me.
And side note, I did go back to school. I got my associate's degree in 2 years instead of 1. That was great. Got all A's and a C in math. And yeah, I haven't gone back to school since. Need to get my bachelor's, but I've been jumping around between jobs ever since. Got into day trading and trading stocks a lot. Got into selling drugs again down here with some Rainbow Family people and some old, like, gray-headed bloods down here that, you know, I get white from. And I get K and acid from the hippies down here. And then I would get lots of PCP analogs like FXE and 2-FDCK. And also 2-fluorodischloroketamine is what that's called. And fluoroxetamine is FXE. And I'd get bromazolam, pyrazolam, desalkylgidazepam, fluclotizolam, flubrotizolam, bromazolam. I think I already said that. Down here in liquid form. And I would go on Adobe and make Xanax labels like alprazolam 2 milligram liquid solution labels and put them on these bottles and sell it as Xanax. Or I would get Spravato labels and put it on nasal spray bottles of 2-FDCK. Yeah, but I don't trap anymore. I quit doing that again. It was just a shadow of what it used to be. I never got back up big time. I mean, I'd get some pages of acid down here, which was nice, like 10 sheets in a thing. But been floundering, dude, trying to figure shit out. Been to rehab a ton of times. So that fiance I had, she told me she cheated on me while I was in rehab. And I'd already been wanting to exit the relationship just because we weren't meant to be, even though we were engaged. I felt trapped. She was the type of girl that was always like, I'm going to kill myself if you ever break up with me. Wah. And so I was like, yo, let me fuck other girls and then we can still be together. Like, just let me, that'll help me forgive you for cheating on me. And it turned out she had like a fetish for an open relationship. She really liked me being with other girls and then coming home and telling her about it. Like, she didn't want to see other guys or other people, so she said, but she liked me to go be with other women and then tell her about it. She would make dating profile. I would like had dating profile apps, and we at nighttime we'd lay down in bed and she would swipe on which girls she wanted me to go fuck. It was very interesting. But eventually I fell in love with one of those girls. It's Sarah, the girl I'm with now, and I left to come be with Sarah and got kicked out of living with the sociopath the same day for reasons I'll get into another time. I'll have a little side sociopath episode. And yeah, dude, tried to kill myself here in Sarah's house because I was just fed up with life. Tried to overdose on fentanyl when I was already on a bunch of benzos and alcohol. It didn't work, thankfully. I tried to, after that I didn't try to anymore. I had a new lease on life, but overdosed multiple times. One time in the street in downtown Atlanta, one time on the floor here. She found me purple and had to use 2 Narcans to bring me back. And I remember her being like, I come to like sick as fuck from the Narcan, and I hear, is he being aggressive? And I'm like, yo, is he being aggressive? Where's he at? Let me at him. And it was dispatch talking about me on the phone with her on speaker. I was like, oh shit, it's talking about me. Like, nah, I'm good. I'm just sick. And I scrambled to hide the meth and fentanyl. And then the EMS came in and I was like, decline all services. I decline all services. And they were like, what the fuck, dude? Come to the hospital. I was like, no, get the fuck out of here. And then I went back to the same plate of substances that just killed me. But I did less this time, so I was okay. I think I'm going to end here because I just don't feel good. My chest is very tight from vaping too much. But yeah, man, any other stories? Like, I've got countless of them. And I can really get into the stuff here in Atlanta. Like, it's been a wild ride down here. I got into all types of shit. Met a lot of interesting people. I've done some horrible things down here, especially on Ambien, Klonopin, and bromazolam and alcohol. Ended up leaving Sarah to go live with another girl at one point in time and destroyed that girl's house. She said I tried to kill her. Didn't try to kill her. Promise you that. But yeah, bro. I'll expose myself in the coming episodes. I'll have an episode called the exposure episode, where it's not me exposing myself like in my wiener. It'd be like exposing all the bad things I've done, like verbally to you guys, because I've done some really heinous things. But the power of self-forgiveness is amazing, and the power of those that you love forgiving you is unparalleled. Don't really have much more to say other than I'm 2 months sober tomorrow, aside from being on methadone and being a little crafty with my methadone dose on the weekends when I got my take home. It's the first time I've done that. It's the only time I've only been on it for like a week. I switched from Suboxone, but
I've been relapsing nonstop down here and having like failed business ventures and just trying to achieve my former glory of trapping and it's just not working and it not being worth it, honestly. A lawyer, I got with a lawyer, the sociopath dude was a lawyer. When we were still tight, he helped explain like why he thinks I was okay as far as not going down with that case, and it's because they got all the people above me, right? He said they know who you are, they've got Venmo records and like phone records and everything, they know who you are, like you're doing the right thing by going to treatment and bettering your life and being HIPAA protected for 16 months, and they didn't want to wait for you to get out and have, you know, a chance of the evidence getting ruined like it already did with A. And they already had all the people above you, so they just wanted to go ahead and tie it up nicely, but just don't go up there and fuck around ever again or else they're going to get your ass. So I don't sell drugs anymore. I haven't for a while, haven't for about a year. Don't plan on doing it ever again. I'm chilling, sober for 2 months, trying to find jobs right now. And yeah, I'll probably listen to this episode and do a follow-up episode where I hone in on specific things I need to expound upon more. But I am feeling the methadone withdrawal now, dude. I'm restless as fuck. And like my legs are starting to kick a little bit and I'm really sweaty. And I just feel shitty as all get out. So, podcast over. Shout out, bless up, gang gang.